Well, probably as a result of sand, this back patch is particularly unpleasant in its action, anything but smooth. I'm going to see if I can get the leatherette off the front there so I can remove the panel that holds the back catch in place. I want that off so I can clean it all away. But I don't know if I'm going to get the leatherette off. It's certainly got Zeiss bumps under it. It's got a greasy feel to this too. I try and avoid taking the leatherette off these side panels either side of the front of these cameras because you very rarely need to take them off, and there's always a danger you'll break them. And of course there are no spares. Right, so let's have a look at this. This white crap here, that's corrosion products from the aluminium body, and that's just corrosion. So all of that needs to come off. The black part you see here is actually from the leatherette itself. That's where the fibres have come away. That's okay. Let's have a look at the one on the other side. If I'm doing one, I might as well do both. So see if I can lift this leatherette. There's a lot of it's patchy. Some of it is lifts easily and some of it does not. Which means you need to go very carefully to try and avoid breaking the leatherette. The leatherettes are often fairly brittle. They would have been nice and pliable when they went on the camera originally, but they're often very brittle at this stage, which means you can't bend them too much or they'll just snap. Leatherettes are often very well stuck right at the edge, right at a corner. That's where they're often stuck the best, and that's where they're probably at their most fragile too. As I'm doing this, I just noticed the leatherette on the camera back is not stuck as well as I'd like either, so that might just as well come off if I'm dealing with bumps. Okay, so got that leatherette off there. Again, corrosion products there, corrosion on the body at this point. Some green corrosion here. Okay, the leatherette on the back door. Let's see if this is going to lift for me. Okay, that's fairly well stuck. I'm just sliding my pointed tweezers under there because it was easier than trying to get the broad blade of my scalpel down at that point. And I can't afford to bend the leatherette up too much because it's probably brittle, so I've got to be pretty cautious about how I slide the scalpel underneath this. There's also some damage at this corner. That looks like where it's been thumped on something. Okay, I think we're away now. Yeah, it's certainly got the Zeiss bump feel under here. The corrosion products, have been promoted by probably skin oils, moisture, and where you see the Zeiss bumps, it's because you've got dissimilar metals, and that's when the corrosion really rips away. Okay, it's a bit stiff there. Okay. Now the techniques you use when you're removing leatherette sort of vary depending on the particular situation you face. Often you're using the scalpel more as a lever to prise up the leatherette. In this case the scalpel is pretty much sliding underneath the leatherette because the leatherette is not very well stuck at all. Okay, that's looking good. I'm right at the corner again now, so I've got to be very careful. And I'm using the scalpel here as a lever to pry that leatherette up. That's it, it's off. Alright, so the leatherette, same deal again. We've got some corrosion products here. That white stuff is corrosion. All of that crap's got to come off there. And the back of the camera is covered in corrosion products. It's like a salty layer. Look at that crap there. That's all got to come off back to clean metal. However, that's not what I needed to do. What I came in here to deal with was the back catch, really. So the button on the back catch I need off there first. Right, different pliers. There's a little spring that goes inside that button. We'll remove that too. 2 screws hold this cover plate in place. They're quite small and they're not like anything else, so don't lose them. Right, and we should be able to lift that lever off. And it's not even as sandy as I expected to find it, or even as corroded. In fact, that's not too bad at all. I'll put those parts to one side. The body I've got to clean up. And the video camera's telling me the battery's flat. Alright, scraping off all this crap. This is a mixture here of corrosion, leatherette and adhesive. Probably 60 years of finger grease. And anything else that came along. Just using the back of my scalpel blade here because it's very good for scraping things like this loose without digging in and making a mess. brush some of that away so I can see how well I'm doing. To be careful here not to take the paint off the body edges, of course. That's good enough for that side for the moment. Now I'll do this one the same. This side the leatherette was stuck better. You can probably tell that by the amount of black colour there from the fibres of the leatherette. And that's probably some of the original adhesive to that colour. Bit of corrosion at this bottom edge. I can tell by the whitish colour of the stuff coming off. That's so far so good. Now this back. Oh, this is a mess, isn't it? The back is softer aluminium, so you have to be a bit more cautious about scraping this so you don't make a terrible mess. This has got quite a greasy feel to it, this mess that I'm taking off here. It's also got a salty appearance, and I presume that that is salts from the aluminium as a result of the corrosion. The corrosion here, you can tell when you get a colour change, and there's some sort of dark patches there, rough patches underneath that adhesive here and here. Yuck. This sort of thing is the reason that it's fairly futile just focusing on repairing the most obvious problem with an old camera. The most obvious problem will be just one of its many problems, and they usually need to be stripped right down and cleaned and rebuilt. Usually that's all that's required. Usually you're not replacing parts, you're just cleaning parts and reassembling them with fresh lubricants and adhesives. But if you don't do the foundation work, it's just like building on sand. When cameras were comparatively new, when they were in their first couple of decades of life, it would be a different matter. When a camera had a fault, you just fixed the fault. There was no reason to believe that the rest of the camera was in danger of falling over. Right. That's all scraped off that I'm going to get scraped off. I'll just vacuum up this mess and then I'll start cleaning with solvent. Well, that was nearly a disaster. I just about vacuumed up the small screws. That would have been fun. Right, let's see if we can get some of this filth off here now with a bit of solvent. I'm just using some naphtha on a cotton bud here to get rid of this greasy mess. And that may be sufficient. I may need to use something a bit more aggressive. And this stuff does polish off. It's not exactly stunning looking, is it? I'll try something else. Oh yeah, that's certainly making a dent in it. Right, so what I'm using here with great success is CRC Heavy Duty Electroclean, which is trichloroethylene. I'm trying to keep away from the paint with this stuff because it'll probably shift that very well too. There's just a layer of some scunge here. Let's see if we can get that off. Not sure what that crusty lump was. Right, so I've just got to do that for the rest of this body and then I can do the normal cleaning, because I've got to get in here and get rid of the sand and rubbish yet. I'll bring you back when I'm a bit tidier. Well, 20 minutes later, there's the body, clean, ready for rebuilding. It looks a lot better, I think. However, it's the end of the day here now, so that's all for now. I think my first task for the day is to clean up these leatherettes, get them ready to put back on the camera body when I get to that stage. So I'll start with the leatherette from the back. So I'm just scraping this using my scalpel as a scraper to remove excess adhesive, dirt, corrosion products and anything I don't like the look of from the back of the leatherette. Basically it's the same sort of filth that was on the camera body itself, but I can't use the same energetic solvent for cleaning the leatherette because that would eat the leatherette. So I've just got to scrape off the vast bulk of this filth. and I'll wipe the back down with naphtha once I'm done to remove any loose grease. The leatherette's a bit damaged at that corner, and I should not scrape too hard at that, I'll only end up with problems. This is one of the side panels from the front of the camera. It's much the same deal. Get rid of the lumps and bumps. With a bit of luck, the leatherettes will lie back down. Once they're glued back in place, the leatherettes will lie back down fairly flat. Often you can't get rid of the bumps entirely, but they are usually much reduced. This way. The little white dots are pieces of corrosion from the body, and they have to be sort of picked out of the leatherette with the tip of the scalpel. Here's the worst piece of leatherette, of course. This is from the base of the camera. This was quite lumpy. Here we've got multiple layers of adhesive. On those pieces it was just the adhesive from the manufacturer. Here we've got adhesive from previous repairers. And looking at this, I would suspect that this has been repaired at least twice. So some of this rubbish is corrosion from the bottom of the camera, some of it is crusty lumps of adhesive. And you can see I'm sort of chipping and scraping away at this, watching as I go, with a view to getting rid of the adhesive without damaging the leatherette itself. And what I hope here is that this piece of leatherette, which you can see from the reflections is a bit lumpy and bumpy, will lie back down flat on the camera when I'm done. Right, I'll bring you back when I'm ready to clean these up a bit further. I've got the back of that leatherette scraped off to my satisfaction. So now I'm just going to put some naphtha on a cotton bud and wipe down the whole surface to remove any traces of oil or dust, so that when I glue them back on the camera it gives it its best shot of sticking well. and staying put. And lying nice and smooth and flat on the camera. That's for the back. These leatherettes are in quite good condition apart from the little bumps. They are not serious problems compared with some I see. And the piece from the base, which was the worst of the four pieces here, this has got multiple layers of adhesive on it. I suspect that the reason it's bumpy, apart from the corrosion products causing some bumps, the other problem was with the adhesive, and I think that the previous repairer had failed to clean the leatherette before putting it back on the camera and had simply stuck more adhesive over the existing lumps and bumps, with the result that it just enhanced the lumps and bumps. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. For those pieces now, the base in particular, that can be done later. These pieces I can just about put back on the body. What have I got to do here? Well, first I've got to reassemble my back catch assembly. I better find the pieces for that and get that done.